Hi everyone! Today I'm continuing the series that I started a while ago with respect to comparing different types. I've talked about a lot of different combinations like INTJ versus INFJ, ISTP versus INTP, ESFP versus ENFP, INFJ versus INFP, and so on and so forth. Feel free to check out, I'll link the playlist here. Anyway, so today I will be talking about ESFJ and ENFJ, two types that share the same dominant function, two types that have a lot in common, but two types that are also widely different in some respects. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, ENFJs and ESFJs, two types that are both extroverted feeling dominant types or extroverted feeling hero types. Two types that also have 3 out of 4 letters in common, which of course means that sometimes they can be perceived as very similar and it might be a little bit difficult to differentiate. So I would like to explore an important difference, and that is the interaction style difference. This will be the first aspect that I will be talking about. Next, I will be looking at the differences between these two types in terms of their parent and child function. So intuition and sensing differences between the two types, NI-SE for the ENFJ and SI-NE for the ESFJ. And thirdly, I would also like to discuss the difference in temperament, because this is also important here. We've got idealists for ENFJ and guardians for ESFJ. Okay, so interaction style. For those of you who have not explored this topic yet, because it's not as popular in the MBTI community as compared to other theories, the interaction style model was created by Linda Burns, and it basically groups the types into 4 different categories. ENFJs are part of the control interaction style or in charge interaction style, whereas ESFJs are part of the get things going or starter interaction style. And this is a pretty notable difference. The first and most obvious thing that you can take into account here is the fact that the interaction style creates a communication style difference. This means that ENFJs are direct or directive communicators, whereas ESFJs are informative communicators. The difference here is that ENFJs are more likely to give answers to the point in a way, not necessarily to be direct as in to be blunt, because this is a confusion that I sometimes notice. Both ENFJs and INFJs are direct or directive communicators in this particular model or theory, but that doesn't mean that they are direct in the sense of being blunt, because we know that sometimes having high extroverted feeling can change things a little bit. However, this type of communication makes ENFJs more likely to give shorter, more concise answers to questions. And it also means that they are more likely to give you the information that you ask for and only later provide more context, more detail, more information if you ask them. It also means that sometimes they can sound a bit directive with other people in the sense of wanting to send the conversation in a specific direction or even influence behavior to go in a specific direction. On the other hand, ESFJs as informative communicators tend to provide more detail, more context with the aim to inform. So you're having a conversation with the ESFJ and the ESFJ might give you much more detail, much more context than you asked for, because for informative communicators, this is an important motivating factor. They want to make sure that you understand, that you have all of the information that they need. So rather than wanting to give you the information so they direct you, they give you the information so that you enhance your understanding on a topic, so that you are informed. And sometimes this might mean that ENFJs are more concise and ESFJs are less concise, but not in all cases, because ENFJs can also be quite talkative, and I've noticed sometimes we can confuse the two. Just because they're talkative does not necessarily mean that they're more informative. Okay, also, when it comes to the interaction style difference between these two types, on top of the communication difference, there's also a pretty important discrepancy between how these two types deal with other people. Even though they're both extroverted, ENFJs, being in charge or control types, are more likely to focus on getting a realistic, achievable result. So just to remind you, ESTPs, ENTJs, and ESTJs are also in this category. This means that the ENFJ will think in terms of, okay, me together with the group want to achieve something that is realistic. How can we do that? How can we best mobilize our resources to move further and achieve those particular results? How can we progress in such a way that we move fast? And ENFJs, like the other control types, don't really like backtracking, and they really hate wasting time, which is a pretty prominent difference. The ESFJ doesn't really show this very much. On the other hand, ESFJs, being get things going types or starter types, like ENTP, ESFP, and ENFP, they are more likely to not display this directive energy that's more typical for ENFJ. So they prefer having a more informal style of interacting with other people and wanting to inspire other people to also join them. This is pretty typical for this interaction style. They are great facilitators. They are exuberant, enthusiastic, and good at kind of mobilizing people to join them in particular, like endeavors or contexts where they can create something together. They are less likely to take on a leadership role naturally. It doesn't mean that they would not be good at it or that other people would not put them on this position. It just means that they are better at catalyzing, facilitating, creating contexts where other people can join them. And they thrive in communities where people work with each other. There's a lot of teamwork involved. There's a lot of collaboration involved, and so on and so forth. Again, this doesn't mean that the ENFJ doesn't like collaboration, but their energy in a group is quite different. The ENFJ will have a more control-oriented attitude, a more directive attitude, whereas the ESFJ will have a more all-encompassing, less control-oriented attitude. Okay, then I would like to talk about the intuition sensing difference. So for the ENFJ, we have introverted intuition and extroverted sensing as their parent and child function, or auxiliary tertiary function, depending on the model that we're using. So the ENFJ with introverted intuition parent are more likely to supervise or be responsible, the way that I like to say it, through this intuition function. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about these functions right now because I've made quite a lot of videos on that, so make sure to check them out. However, what I do want to mention is that a pretty important difference is that this mature, helpful energy comes from a place of wanting to inspire people to also see the big picture and wanting to hold themselves accountable for the big picture and their long-term vision, knowing what's going to happen and kind of moving forward that vision for the ENFJ. On the other hand, ESFJs with introverted sensing parent are more likely to hold themselves and other people responsible through this function, through stabilizing, through noticing impressions from the outside world and kind of connecting to that and what that means to them and to other people. And this is more of a personal observation. ESFJs are like, kind of like the other SJ types, are quite good at creating stability and comfort for other people. There is this energy that introverted sensing also often has in the first and second slots, hero and parent function, where they kind of make people feel grounded around them. Whereas this is a bit less obvious or less typical for NI types like the ENFJ. Also, if we look at the child function, so the third function, for ENFJs, this is extroverted sensing. For ESFJs, this is extroverted intuition. The child function is a function that we often show quite a lot. Sometimes it gets mistaken for the hero function. And it's also a function that gets this childlike feel to it, this childlike vibe to it. ENFJs with extroverted sensing child are more likely to engage with their senses, take advantage of tangible opportunities, explore the concrete world with this childlike curiosity. Whereas ESFJs are more likely to display this childlike curiosity in the abstract, in the extroverted intuition world of ideas and concepts, of meanings and implications. Again, more of a personal opinion or observation here. ENFJs come and bring this mature, stable version to their intuition and a more childlike, fun attitude around sensing, whereas ESFJs are the opposite. They are more calm, mature, grounded energy seems to come from their sensing function, whereas their more exploratory, childlike, curious energy seems to come more from their intuition. Okay, and lastly, I will talk about the difference in temperament. So ENFJs are idealists, ESFJs are guardians. Idealists, as classified by David Kersey, are types that are more likely to focus on human potential. They're more abstract, and they focus a lot on bringing out the best in other people, which is why a lot of NF types, including ENFJs, end up working in professions that are somewhat related to this. I don't know, counselors, psychologists, coaches, human resources professionals, social workers, artists. On the other hand, ESFJs, being guardians like the other SJ types, are more likely to focus on preserving, on creating stability. They are much more concrete because they are sensors rather than intuitives, which displays both in their communication style and in their thinking style as well, because obviously there's a connection there. So this stability, groundedness, energy that I was talking about earlier is quite obvious, which is why a lot of the times ESFJs get this, association with being very good caregivers. It's not that ENFJs aren't, but I would say that ESFJs are better at providing in a more concrete, physical way, in a more tangible way. Whereas ENFJs seem to resonate better or to work better in contexts where they can provide emotionally and spiritually in a more abstract way. Okay, so these are my thoughts on some of the most prominent differences between ENFJ and ESFJ. For those of you who want to go deeper into exploring cognitive functions, you can check out the videos that I made with respect to the functions in each of the 8 positions, as well as the discussions about each function based on Carl Jung's explanation in psychological types. So feel free to check out those videos. In the meantime, I will link below 2 things. My newsletter, so for those of you who are interested in subscribing, I send about 2 emails per month where I talk about typology related topics, as well as some other psychology, personal development related topics. And I will also link below my website where you can find out more information about my coaching sessions and also read through the articles that I've posted on my blog. So thanks a lot for watching, thanks a lot for being with me, and as always, see you next time with another video on typology.